Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
All right, a very excited Friday Night Racing for you this weekend because the Dublin Racing Festival is upon us. We've been building up to this for months and months and months. The quality of racing is absolutely superb, and we're going to be picking some winners for you later on. Isn't that right, Johnny?
Yeah, that's the plan, Gerard. That is the plan.
It is a pretty amazing weekend of racing.
It is. You know, they were missing maybe Album Photo, Abacadabras and Envoy Alain of the Irish horses, but I can't really think of anyone else off the top of my head. They're nearly all there.
And they're going against each other.
They're going against each other, yeah. Willie Mullins has 21 runners on the Saturday, and I think the trainer's title is playing on his mind a bit as well, because he's thrown like pretty much all the runners at it instead of keeping them apart. And Faugheen taking on Battle Over Doy in a race like that just kind of tells you the quality that's there. There are only a small number of British runners, but they do add to the occasion. And the weather is anything like today. It's going to be just perfect, absolutely perfect. And they've watered the ground a fair bit to keep it on the softest side. So everything's set fair for a great weekend. Yeah,
so Friday Night Racing brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. Of course, you can follow them on Twitter at HRI Racing, and the hashtag every racing moment is full of good stuff for you as well. A special welcome to our guest this week, who's trainer Paul Nolan. Paul, good afternoon to you. How you doing?
Afternoon, lads. How are things?
Yeah, you must be pretty excited. The first race going to post. You've got the favourite in the Dublin Racing Festival. So this is, I suspect, days like today where the excitement and the anticipation is there is exactly why you get up in the morning.
Yeah, well, that's, it's nice to have a horse of a calibre like that that's worth entering in a race like that. It's been a while since we had a horse like him. It's a numbers game, and you have to go through so many before you get ones like this. And it's taken a while, but hopefully we can keep him in one piece now, and he runs respectable. Yeah,
I was just chatting off air to Johnny. Your story is one of the great Irish sports comeback stories of the last few years that I can remember, because, as you say, it has been a difficult time to get back to the point where you have horses that are going to be relevant at the top end of the market in advance of big races like this.
Yeah, well, it's we knew it was coming, Jerry. It was something that when horses weren't being replaced, and it wasn't something that was a surprise. It wasn't that we'd numbers there and they weren't performing. It was just, we knew we'd nothing coming, and we'd nothing left even in the line of handicappers or anything. It was just a question of trying to survive in the game and survive financially to be able to put food on the table and keep going. And thankfully we all just knuckled down and kept going, and we some loyal owners that sort of stayed on board. If all had left, we were finished. But that's what it's all about. It's easier to go through. The good times are easy, Ger. It's the bad times that you have to sort of knuckle down, and that's when you show what you're made of then.
You start thinking of the possibility of it ending and what you might do if that happened. Was that playing on your mind, Paul, and how bad did it get mentally for you?
I'd say if you let the bad days get to you, Johnny, there's no way you'd stay at it. It's not a game for the faint-hearted, because there are more disappointments than good days. The most of them don't perform, and it's tough getting into that lorry and coming on home with horses that have been disappointing, because there's people paying money in their spare time to go and look at something that they're hoping they'll give them a good day out, and not be embarrassed in the parade ring with something after running scoreless when they're after paying a fortune for it or paying good money to keep it in training. So I mean, it's a game that it depends on the person. It's the lads that are able to take the bad days. Those are the guys you want.
Paul, I'm going back 15 years here. Like, you were one of the rising stars of the training game in Ireland, a new trainer on the scene who wasn't kind of part of a family dynasty, and it wasn't kind of given to you, it wasn't handed down to you. You didn't have owners knocking on the door saying, take these 10 horses. You had to go and chisel out your own existence, and that was part of the story. I think that was like why so many people would have kind of rallied behind you and been a fan of yours, just even if they didn't have horses with you. The casual racing fan definitely really liked the story. What actually happened? How did you go from there to not having any success? Was it just a function of the boom and bust in Irish life?
I'd say, there's a certain amount, there's no one, I don't think you can blame anyone. I mean, we're very lucky here. I'm very lucky that I've all my family working for me, and it's sort of won't say puts added pressure on you, but you know that the whole thing revolves around this being a success, that we're all able to get a living out of it. And, you know, my father's in the yard every day, and James is in the yard 7 days a week. Sister Imelda, my other sister Mairead, young Barry is interested in it now as well. So the whole lot of us, it's a whole family job. And, you know, so you have to make it work. And that's why, you know, I can never... I can't put into words how grateful I am to the lads that stuck with me, because I mean, you know, if everyone went, you were going to have to, I don't know what sort of finance you'd want to be able to keep buying horses to get a good one out of it. It just wouldn't be possible. So there were several times that I was saying, if this gets any worse, how are we going to stay going? And I was lucky that we owned our own place here and there was no mortgage or anything on it. Thankfully, you know, we'd no debt or anything in the place, and if we had, it might have been different. And I can see why guys stop, and if they're putting all the reserves into it and they can't see, and the light is not coming at the end of the tunnel, I can see how you can just say, listen lads, this is just not practical anymore, I have to do something else. And it's a thin line, and it's a thin line even if you have, you know, we're basing all this, it's all being based on one horse's latest exhibition, and you know, if something happens to him or if he underperforms, the world still can't end. And I'm used to these sort of knocks that, if, you know, hopefully to God it won't happen, but if it just happened that things didn't go right from tomorrow and he didn't perform for one reason or the other, there's no point in me going home and burying my head in the sand. I just have to get him right again or get another one or whatever. That's just the way it is.
It's interesting, Paul, that like just looking at your stats, you never really deviated beyond sort of 9 or 10% percentage of wins to runs, which would at least suggest even in the hard times you weren't just running rubbish for the sake of it either. No,
well, you see, Johnny, there's not, you know, there's only a certain amount of excuses you can make up. Like, you know, you bring the horse to the track for a certain length of time. Now, especially if he's performing well at home, you'll give him that bit more of a chance that you'll say, right, something had to happen. He works too well at home. But if you keep going 4 or 5 times and it's the same answer, well, then you just got to say, there's no point. There's no excuses left in the book for this fella. And I just couldn't keep putting horses up on the lorry that continuously underperform like that. I don't think I'd remain sane.
Yeah, and it was when you had 40 winners 2005, 2006 to go down to, we'll say 11 years later. Does it play in your mind? Sort of, is it hard to escape that when your runners are down? You're less than a winner every couple of months. You don't have the horses, and I suppose you see that the main trainers are dominating more so at the expense of the smaller lads. And obviously, Colin Murphy would have gone away around that time as well. He's trained the odd one now, but it must be very tough on the mind.
Well, you know, it is, and you know, when you see top class trainers even on the flat and having fantastically successful seasons, and then the next season they've no decent horse, there's no horse to enter in a Group 3 or anything like that. It's so easy. Go to rock bottom again, even if you have a tremendous season, unless you get the right men into the yard with the chance of bringing in a decent horse. You're really living on the clippings. Like you're just hoping that some little filly that slipped through the sale or something else. Like, I mean, latest exhibition went to the sale and he was withdrawn from the sale. If he had been 100%, he'd have been gone as well. So I mean, it's just you're lucky now to be able to get to one of these good ones and then to be able to hold on to them as well. So I mean, it's like what I said before. We knew that the 5 winners a year, we knew that was coming. So it'd be more stressful if you had 100 horses in and you had loads of runners and they were underperforming and you were going around taking swabs and scans and going around seeing what sort of a virus you had. That wasn't the case. So as bad as it wasn't as mentally stressful as that, you know.
So you never doubted your own training ability. That was the key.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying I don't want it to sound that I'm bullish by saying I never doubted. Like, I mean, we've done different things. We put in another gallop. We changed the surface on the gallop we had and put in a different surface, and we done different things like that to try and maybe. And I remember Martin Pipe even saying to me, he said, "Don't fix what's broken. If it worked once, it'll work again, and don't keep beating yourself up that you have to keep changing this and changing that." And that's sometimes what you do. You get so hooked up on things. Could I make him fitter? Could I get him 10 lengths better? Could I? But normally, you're only doing it to satisfy your own mind. If it worked before, it should work again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose the the loyalty of owners must be something, you know, that you really cherish. I know Lace Exhibition runs in different colours now on Saturday, albeit he's essentially still involved. Jim still has him, but I guess your owners become nearly your friends, because when if Paul Nolan is training 5 winners in a year, people will start saying Paul Nolan's gone very quiet. That seeps into the consciousness, saying trainers send or owners send their horses to other trainers. There are a lot of other good trainers out there, and you really must appreciate the loyalty of the owners that stay with you.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't. I can't be thankful enough for them, you know, because in fairness to lads, when they see, you know, Gordon and Henry and Willie and Noel and the guys bombing those winners in, and Joseph, it's very hard to sort of say, right, to skip past all those guys and come down to me or come to anyone else like me. You know, it's winners are, you can have all the lovely websites and the yards, and you can have lakes and waterfalls and stuff around the place. If you were not getting winners, it doesn't matter. It's winners that make you and attract owners to the yard. And you know, and that's really it. It's winners. It's a winners game, and it's a numbers game.
Notwithstanding that, you know, the other thing that, you know, happens in this game, to go back to the bit of fortune, you kind of have to make your own luck in some ways as well. And it sounds like you got your own luck with Latest Exhibition. You said there was an injury the day that the horse went to the sales. No,
he actually, on the sale, he was gradually developing a string halt, which is a harmless fault in a horse, but it would look horrible at a sale, and it would actually maybe turn people off bidding on him, because they just walk with a funny step. And at the sales, it's all a sort of a show job. It's how the horse shows himself, that he's as correct as possible, limb-wise, shape-wise, and the way he moves. And this just looks funny, a funny movement that the horse makes. And Jim just wasn't willing to take the knock that he was going to get because of this. And he brought him home. And that's lucky for me, he brought him home. And because of that, he'd have been gone, you know.
Yeah, and lo and behold, here the horse is, having beaten Andy Dufresne, I think, which was like one of the most talked about horses in the off-season that I can remember since we've been doing the show in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I suppose the lovely aspect of that story then is you're probably worried, oh, Jesus, great, he's won this race, but, you know, there must be a danger now. He's going to be sold and he could be gone out of the yard, and that did turn out to be quite close, Paul, I believe.
Yeah, there's no doubt that, you know, we very nearly, we were just, again, and I didn't actually think it was going to happen, but it was just the sheer goodness of some of the top owners that I have in the yard decided to come together themselves. Actually, mainly, we say because of my brother James's input into it. He's very good friends with one of the lads, and you know, it was basically them going together that the horse was gone only for that. And you know, he'd have been with a different trainer and with a different owner, and I wouldn't have had him. And you know, I'm hoping to God he'd be lucky for the lads, for the like of that. You know, that's the pressure that it puts on you when a horse has cost a good few pounds like that. You're hoping to God that he will give the lads a few days out and be as successful as possible for them.
Yeah, it's a great story, and hopefully it comes to a successful conclusion tomorrow. How is the horse, and how do you expect the run of the race to go tomorrow?
Actually, he seems fine, Ger. You know, there's times that everything seems fine and you go out and you don't perform, and you're coming in then and you're saying, oh God, what am I going to say when I go in here? And that's always the dread, especially when you're going with one bullet in your gun. You know, it's there's no point in saying it's not worrying. It is, and you'd always be happy when it's over. As long as he runs well, you wouldn't mind if he just ran poorly or stopped at some occasion. You just say, "Oh Lord, what happened there?" And that's the worrying part of going up with one horse in a race like that you've only one chance. And you know, that's basically it. It's just that's the worry of it.
Yeah, I suppose that's the glorious uncertainty of all sports, but particularly with racing. Can I just one of the things that we like to do when we have guests on Friday Night Racing is to ask people about their pathway into the sport. As far as I know, there's no great racing history in your family life, is there? Like, are you the first generation?
Absolutely. I'd say probably great grandfathers and all ploughed with horses. That's all. That's all. And I'd never had never went and rode ponies. Never had anything to do with horses. Never went to the races. Never went to Point to Points until I was about 23 or 4 years of age. And but I always loved racing on the television. Would always fake getting sick to look at Cheltenham. And I remember like I'd be baiting the couch that when Don Run won the Gold Cup with John Joe Neal and hoping that the Irish should be as successful as possible. When they go over to Cheltenham, I'd be just cheering on every Irish horse running in every race. And it's just amazing that I ended up then making a living out of it when I didn't think I'd ever be involved in it. And, I was very grateful to Jim Bulger. I went up to Jim not knowing a thing, and within 3 days I was riding out. And that basically where it all started was working for Jim.
That was the bug. At that point you realised this is exactly where I should be in. So were you 22 or 23 when you started working for Jim?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
How many people
I went
came
up there.
through there?
I did. It was a great place, to go. The stories and what you bring out of it and all was it was just a great place to work, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And it was up there with Colin Bowe and a few of those guys, and it just it's a great industry to work in, and there's great friendship and great crack involved in it, and it sort of makes up for the bad days and disappointments. The crowd you're meeting every day at the races, you have a lot of shoulders to cry on.
When did you want to be a trainer? Was that straight away? Like, because at 22, 23, I'm not saying the ship has sailed if you wanted to be a competitive jockey, but like at that point, are you already in your head going, I'm going to keep an eye out now how Jim's training the horses, how they're picking them?
Yeah, it was absolutely the fitness. I was never going to be a jockey, because looking at me on a horse now, I just look, it's embarrassing how I look, but I'm looking just to stay on them. But I've never had aspirations of being a jockey. But I always loved the fitness side of things, and loved working with animals. I hated tractors and machinery when I was growing up, so it was always just animals I was interested in. So there's no way I was going to get involved in something like that. And it's just basically I love working with animals, and horses obviously are my favourites.
So was the family farm a sheep farm? Is that right?
Yeah, sheep farm and tillage and a small few cattle. That's what it was.
So a bit of everything really, and
yeah, a bit of everything.
Quite the conversation to have with your family, right? Giving up the heritage and tradition and all that stuff that you all know everything about, and are kind of, you've done your 10,000 hours and you're all experts in. We're throwing that all in, and we're going to get some horses in and going to put in the gallops. Don't worry, it'll all be grand.
Yeah, well, it's we were more than likely. I was very lucky that we were going to try and get into dairy cows, which would have changed the whole thing, because I was sort of interested in that as well. But there was a quota at that time, and it cost too much money to get into it. And if that hadn't been there, that quota's gone now. You can get into it if you want now without having to spend fortunes. But that was so nearly happened with me. If I'd have been allowed to get into that time, there's no way I'd have went down the horse road. And so the whole life would have been different. And, thank God there was a quota there that I didn't get into it, because I prefer what I'm doing now.
Yeah, the milk game isn't paying that well either.
I think it has a bit of a resurrection. It wasn't good. I think it's not too bad now. It's farming wise, it's the best anyway.
Well, I like the latest X3 story is nice. Well, that Jim, the breeder, actually owned the mare, and she was a good mare for you, Paul. Do you think she'll imbue or put a bit of stamina into him in terms of stepping up and trip tomorrow?
I'm hoping she will. I'm hoping she will, Johnny. It's there's times that you don't know about trips until you run over them, and you could come along and say that something seems like it stays, but when you're getting up in trip like that, you really know not. And the grade ones are normally ran at a proper pace. You saw the Lawlers Hotel the last day. That was a phenomenally fast run race, and there's no hiding places. And if there is a little something wrong with your, if that race, would say, if he had made the same mistake he made in that Lawlers Hotel race, I think it would have had a far bigger difference to the end of the race. And I don't think in a grade one he can afford to do something like that again. And grade ones, with the pace they go at, there's no hiding place in it. It's very seldom you see a grade one ran at a poor pace.
Yeah, it's a really
and it will be, you're going to have to stay.
It's a really good field tomorrow in that race.
Yeah, what's encouraging about the race as well is there are a lot of different connections, I suppose, represented. Elixir Dane for Willie Mullins might be towards the head of the betting. Paul Nolan's horse is definitely going to be one of the leading fancies in the race. You've Longhouse Poem for Martin Brassel, who wouldn't have that many horses, but very good trainer, home by the lead for Joseph O'Brien. Fury Road, potential favourite for Gordon Elliott. Henry de Bromhead is Cobbler's Way. I mean, you've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different trainers, and almost all horses in with a chance, and it's a cracking race to start the festival. Just have,
straight out the gate.
You want different connections. That's what this exhibition story is encouraging, because when I got into racing, which isn't all that long ago, but there were, see the likes of Colin Murphy and Mouse Morris fighting out finishes in Jessica Harrington winners of Moscow Flyer. The winners were spread around a lot more, and see Paul with a horse as good as this fella. I mean, how far could he go, Paul? Are you thinking potentially Gold Cup horse in time? Is that a long, long way away?
It's too long away, Johnny. I never like being negative about things, but when you've only a few of them like that, you just take every race as it comes. I'm looking no further beyond tomorrow. Of course he's entered in the Albert Bartlett and stuff like that. But I mean, of course you think long term that if things go right for him and he stays injury free, that's what the dreams are. But I'm just worried about tomorrow. He's
already 7 as well, so you must be thinking of chasing next season.
Oh, absolutely. He's no spring chicken. So this is his hurdling year, and next year it'll be go chasing.
A little reminder as well of yesterday. I believe your mare, Alafaline, that won at Limerick, who ended up absolutely bolting up yesterday. Is there a little bit of a Cheltenham plan for her as well?
Yeah, the lads are, they're a good group of lads that own her, and they just said to me after, is there any chance you'd enter in the Mayor's Novice? And I was wondering, was the Mayor's Novice closed yet, because I'd nothing that I was thinking about for it, but it's not closed anyway. So they said that no matter what, they want to go. So unless I just said to him, she's probably going to have to improve about 30 pounds, lads. But if they want to go, she'll go. I'm not going to stop them. So, we'll see what happens. But she came out of the race very well. And, I don't know what, she definitely got the far easier side of the divide. But on a line through bits of form with Miss Pernickety and stuff like that with Willie's mare. Now, I know I've heard after that Willie's mare blew up twice and still won. So that would leave her with loads of improvement. But on the line with Miss Pernickety, my one with the horse that was third in our race, beating a long way. There's bits of form that connects in that. I'll have a chat with Andrew Shaw and see what sort of a mark she's going to get, to see would it just be ludicrous altogether going. I don't want to be going over just to make up numbers, but if I thought that I think she's a mare that's continued to improve. I was delighted with her at Christmas with her run, and she certainly improved a long way from that yesterday, I thought, and just the way she went away, I love the way she went to the line. Yeah,
because Willie won the first division with La Marquise. The two winners, both by Marceline, yours and Willie's. Willie's horse, I think, is 5-1 or so for the mare's race. And the more I was thinking about it afterwards, I was thinking the way she kind of seems to race maybe a little bit lazily. She's kind of keeping a bit to herself, but she absolutely powered away. And as you say, progressive profile. If it came up testing, bringing her stamina into play, I mean, look at the result of the race last year. The mare that was second is still a maiden, I think, over hurdles. It can be a little bit of a strange race, and I think you're perfectly entitled to dream anyway.
Yeah, well, listen, her form, before that was dismal, and that didn't look much. But some of these mares that take a while, she had at home and all, she was a little bit fiery, and she's a very high head carriage, and with the girl in the yard, Tina Brown, done an awful lot of work with her, and Adam at home rides her out, and she's not an easy ride. And young Mick Malloy, Mick is very good on her. And
you're like Aidan O'Brien here now. You're going to name every member of staff, yeah. But
the lads, when you get the difficult ones, it's not easy to ride the difficult ones, and she wasn't easy, and now she's just. It seems to be that she's just coming to hand that little bit, and she's dropping her head a little bit, and she's behaving herself, and if she just cops on to herself, she might improve and go a bit forward.
Brian Cooper after the race was purring about her, and she'd be 33 or 50-1 for that race, I think.
Oh yeah, well that'll be a great Cheltenham story. We like those old narratives when it comes to racing. Paul, you've given us plenty over the years. Congratulations on having made the comeback that you made. I think it is a great story, and I'm delighted for you. I hope there's plenty more to come from you as well. Thanks a million for joining us today.
He just needs Wexford hurlers to win the All-Ireland now.
Good
Yeah,
chance of that.
not. There won't be 33 to 1 either. Now. That.
Should be 50s.
No, they're not that far away.
Absolutely, no. I think they're going well. They're giving us all a great thrill, and it's anytime I'm not racing, I try to get to all the matches.
Great stuff, Paul. Thanks a million. Best of luck tomorrow.
Thanks a million, lads. Thanks.
That's
Himself
Paul Nolan.
and James, just two of the good lads of the game.
Yeah, no, totally. And Paul Nolan giving us his thoughts there ahead of the Dublin Racing Festival. A reminder here, Friday Night Racing is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Right, Johnny.
We're here.
We are. In a remarkable turnaround, it says here. A remarkable turnaround. The Tote charity bet has landed for the second week in a row. We've never done back-to-back. Well, now, you weren't here, Tom.
I'm obviously, I was blamed for losing tips when I wasn't here, so I'm going to actually hijack this and claim it. So I've had the last two winners. No, the boy Bugsy did the job last weekend.
The big getaway won easily last weekend at Naas. Onwards and upwards for the
4-9 or something.
For the Tote Injured Jockeys Fund, which now stands at €440. It's all about profit.
Yeah.
€440. This weekend we'll obviously see the creme de la creme of jump superstars clash at Leopardstown for the Dublin Racing Festival, which should again provide plenty of Cheltenham clues. So we haven't actually talked about any of the other big races. We've talked a good bit about the opening race, which is the Nathaniel Lacey and Partners Solicitors 50,000 Cheltenham bonus for stable staff novice hurdle.
Yeah, it's very tough, this race. I have to say the festival over the 15 races in general, is it 15 or 16? I think it's 15. 8 on Sunday, and tomorrow starting off with the race of Paul's horses in. Very tough from a punting perspective. I mean, you could make a case in that race for nearly all the runners. I've marginal preference for Fury Road. I think he's a big engine, and he did the job well at Limerick at Christmas. A horrible late mistake. He's just a lovely horse, stays well, has a bit of class. But I mean, the only horse I'd probably be taking on is Elixir Danny. I just wouldn't be mad on his stamina. I think Longhouse Poet might reverse Naas form with him. He's one horse I'd be taking on in the race, but I could easily see Paul's horse win. I think Longhouse Poet definitely has a chance, and Fury Road would be my selection.
Okay, the next race, that's a doozy. Chacun pour soi, A Plus Tard and Min are the top three in the betting at the moment. This is the Labrooks Dublin Chase over 2 miles, 1 furlong. So,
this is a real belter of a race. Chacun pour soi was behind A Plus Tard at Christmas when I don't think tactically he was ridden maybe to best effect. He maybe lost a bit of ground out wide, but for 90% of the race it was perfect.
These are 2 mile chasers.
Yeah.
So where do they end up?
He's going to be. It's going to. I'd say the two of them will end up in the champion chase. A Plus Tard would have the option of going for the Ryanair, which maybe he will. Chacun pour soi will 100% run, I'd imagine, in the champion chase.
What distance is the champion chase?
So it's the same.
And
so
what's the Ryanair?
The Ryanair is 2.5 then.
Right,
so
slightly longer.
Yeah, a race that maybe suits other horses. Sometimes suits horses not quite as classy, but I mean, with Min in the lineup as well and Arnua, they're going to go really hard in this. I think it's going to be a spectacle of spectacles.
Are these like the best athletes, these horses?
Yeah, 2 mile chasing is probably it's probably the best spectacle of the lot. As a jockey, I'd imagine it's a race you really want to ride him because they're going very, very fast and jumping fences at speed on the best horses. So at the fastest horses that can jump a fence at speed. And, if you can imagine being thrown out of a car at nearly 40 miles an hour unexpectedly, that's what it's like to fall in a race like this. So there's that element of danger and that buzz that it entails.
When we were kids, they always referred to the 1,500 metres at the Olympics as the blue ribbon event. And I was like, well, no, it's that. I mean, everybody prefers the 100 metres.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see that. But the best athletes overall were probably the 400 metre runners.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the Gold Cup is obviously a much longer race. The Grand National is a massive slog. They're the ones that have the most, you would call them the blue ribbon events, right? But these are the best athletes.
I think so, yeah. I mean, they're faster. If speed should be the basis for which we judge horses mainly, and certainly it is on the flat. And these horses are faster than the 3 mile horses. And it's a division that has a lot of horses that would evoke great memories, like Moscow Flyer, Azertia, Well Chief, Masterminded.
They're all this.
Yeah,
okay.
and when you do get obviously Sprinter Sacre, when you get a horse like that can that can really dominate the 2 mile division. Altior having a checkered season. It does open it up a little bit. Now, I think Shackleton-Pursois could be extremely exciting. He hammered Defi Desoy at Punchestown last year, and Defi Desoy has been basically, as Gavin Lynch describes him, the ATM machine. He just wins and he pays out every race. But this season he's been imperious. If they clash at Cheltenham, it'll be unbelievable. But I expect Shackleton-Pursois to reverse form with that Blue Tard. I think he'll come on from the run sufficiently.
Okay, the 2 o'clock race at Leopardstown on Saturday is the ERSG Arkle Novice Chase. This one, so this is again over 2 miles. These novice chasers might be horses that end up going Gold Cup courses
next season. Yeah, absolutely.
Is their ultimate goal being champion chasers? Yeah,
champion chasers. Sometimes these can progress to Gold Cup horses. You're thinking of the likes of Kicking King and. You know, if you have the speed for 2 miles, Koto Star, and then stamina for the Gold Cup, you've a hell of a package there. Not many horses have. This does look a good renewal.
Notebook, Fakir, Dudaris.
Notebook and Fakir Dudaris obviously clashed at Christmas. There wasn't a great deal between them, but Notebook won readily enough. I imagine he should probably uphold that form. I went for the rank outsider here. Now, this is speculative, but Gallant John Joe, his stable is in incredible form.
It's 40 to 1.
40 to 1. It'd be a much nicer bet if there were 8 runners and you could get 3 places. But in any event, he was behind Mellon. Gave Mellon a really good race, despite being hampered early on in the race at Christmas. Mellon is 5 to 1 here. He's 40 to 1. I don't really get that price discrepancy. I don't think it's fair. Oliver O'Kieran's horse has been unbelievable form. Barry Brown taking a ride in a Grade 1 would be a very rare thing for him. This is a good horse. He shouldn't be underestimated. Now, he'll 100% need some misfortune to befall elsewhere. He'll need them to go off very hard, which I think they might. But he's not hopeless.
All right, a 40 to 1 shot. We like those.
Gallant John Joe would be named after, is it a hero from Cavan?
Is it?
Anyone listening in maybe can
let us know.
It's
not John Joe Nevin.
I don't think so. I think it goes back to, it might go back to a Cavan football or something like that, but I stand to be corrected. I know Oliver McKieran is from that neck of the woods. So.
Okay. The next one is 2 mile Irish Champion Hurdle, the PCI Irish Champion Hurdle, 114 grand for the winner of this. So Honeysuckle 5 to 4, Sharjah 2 to 1, Classical Dream 4 to 1, Petit Mouchoir 16 to 1, Super Sunday 16 to 1. These are some older horses that we certainly know quite well, and then some newer ones who are good.
Are very, very good in the case of Honeysuckle. She, to me, is the mare that will command more attention than any other horse, I think, this weekend, because maybe I've been alone in comparing her to Dawn Run and how she might be Dawn Run, but I definitely think there's a case to be made that she might be as good as Dawn Run, or she might be the next Dawn Run.
Is Honeysuckle young enough?
She's 6, so she's just turned 6, so they haven't. I actually thought they'd have gone chasing with her this season, because to me she looks like an out-and-out chaser, but they didn't. They went down the hurdle route, and she's answered every question really, really well. You can pick some holes in her form, in that, you know, she beat Bacardi's and Applejades at Fairyhouse, and Bacardi's ran a stinker the next day. Applejade has been more out than in this season. I'm not 100% sure about her dropping back in trip, but I just think she oozes class. And if she wins this, she goes to Champion Hurdle. I think that's almost certain. But to me, she's a chaser, and I would, if I owned her, and Kenny Alexander's record with these mares is absolutely incredible. We shouldn't lose sight of this as well. Kenny Alexander, I don't think he's any connections to Ireland. He's Scottish, yet he has his horses run over here for whatever reason. Maybe it's quality of the trainers, maybe it's surprise money, whatever reason, he's really good horses run over here, and she is potentially top class. I think there'll be a massive reception if she wins tomorrow, but it won't be easy.
Okay, but you're picking Honeysuckle to beat Sharjah.
She's one of my stronger fancies of the weekend.
Okay, so that's 3:10 on Saturday. Anything else on Saturday we should talk about?
The bumper is 4:20. The timing is a little bit tricky because the rugby's going to be they'll be soon getting ready for the anthems at this stage.
We're going to kill Scotland.
4-4.
You can miss the first 15 minutes. We're going to kill
Finn
Scotland.
Russell, I mean, one reason to go to the game was to see Finn Russell in action and what he's doing, and then he does what he did. What were you at, Finn?
Yeah, he
spoiled
obviously does
our
not
weekend.
want to be part of this current regime. Apparently the new kid's quite good, and obviously
I remember his dad playing, and that is worrying. That
do.
is worrying. Well, less of the we all now. I mean, we're not in the same bracket.
Yes,
here.
we are, it turns out.
But in any event, it's exciting, and if you go into the rugby in the back of a good day punting, it kind of puts you in great form for it. Back Ireland in the handicap, yada yada. But Eric Bloodaxe is a potential star in this race. He takes on Appreciated. They're pretty much joint favourites with Paddy Power, I think, as I look here. I'd be with Eric Bloodaxe, but this is like, all of these have won bumpers. It's an absolute crack of a race, except Shakespeare's Word. And I think Jingerstown don't like running horse at Cheltenham bumper, but I think this fella will.
Okay. Gallant John Joe, named after McKiernan's fellow countryman, John Joe O'Reilly, who captained the Cavan team, which won All-Ireland Football Championships in 47 at the Polo Grounds, and then retained the title the next year in 48. They were like, we can do it over there, we can do it back here.
Yeah, so...
A team of superstars.
I've read too much into names of horses at times. I remember Kieran Purcell, who would have played for Kilkenny, named a horse Top Cat Henry, and I've used to
backed it again and again and again.
Follow it. I did, but it was no Henry Shefflin. No, it was more. I don't know what it was. It was more of a Kilkenny footballer than a Kilkenny hurler in the end. But it was sometimes. But if Oliver McKiernan names a horse Gallant John Joe, it's like Aidan O'Brien naming a horse like Rock of Gibraltar or Yates, or you're like. Now, often it goes the other way, but they do generally not give crap horses great names.
Yeah.
So the Gallant John Joe.
Yeah.
No, so I reckon Oliver McKiernan, and this is actually significant enough, I reckon he thought the horse was very good, because he will have to step up on what he's achieved. But Oliver McKiernan was sort of in and out of form over the last year or so. He's in unbelievable form the last month. He had another winner yesterday. So I think the horse, if you wanted to back a horse, and obviously in these races, horses can fall, and he does jump well. I definitely think he's a chance.
Gallant John Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, tomorrow. What kind of price?
40s.
All right, okay. Sunday at Leopardstown, we're going to start with the Chanel Firemen Novice Hurdle at 1:55 here. Easy Work looks like being the favourite at the moment, 2-1. Mount Leinster 11-4. Asterion Forlange 7-2.
Yeah, we might actually just mention the race.
Always go with the French pronunciation if in doubt.
Forlange. The race before it is the Tattersalls Ireland Spring Juvenile Hurdle, in which the very exciting Henry de Bromhead trained Aspire Tower and Rachel Blackmore will be bidding for more Grade 1 glory for the connections this weekend. Very exciting horse. But John McConnell, again, it's a team of the weekend. Smaller trainers being represented. He's a lovely horse here, Never Do Nothing, who I would prefer to back each way than back the favourite at like 4-6.
Okay,
yeah.
That's in the novice.
Yeah, that's in the juvenile for the 4-year-olds. So these are all bound for Cheltenham. Then the races you mentioned initially, Chanel Pharma Novice Hurdle. I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure Chanel Pharma is the Galway-based crowd. Chanel being Tony McCoy's wife.
All right.
I like the Gallant John Joe. Sorry if I'm wrong on that, but I think that obviously big sponsors here with Racing Connections, but what a race this is. But Mount Leinster would be my selection. I wouldn't be mad confident. He has to reverse form with Easy Work, and Blue Starry, who ran disgracefully here at Christmas, is a lot better than that, and he can surely show what he's about here.
Okay, and then at 3 o'clock at Leopardstown on Sunday, it's the Flogas Novice Chase. 90 grand to the winner. Faugheen 6-4. Battle Over Diane 15-8. Easy Game 5-1. Castlebone West 10-1. Tornado Flyer 12-1.
Yeah.
25 is bar.
I ended up tipping Battle Over Diane for this, but I would have reservations about 2 miles 5 on the prevailing terrain at Leopardstown, whether he'd be quite quick enough. I don't want to say this, but it's just in the back of my head. I've had.
Is Faugheen still Faugheen?
He might be, but he's had some bad runs at Leopardstown. As well, and he's had the odd bad run in recent years where he's disappointed, particularly obviously at Aintree last year. Now, he was brilliant at Christmas. Samcro sort of fell into a hole. I'm not 100% sure what he achieved, because Samcro found absolutely nothing. But this will bring the house down. He's 12 years of age. He's probably the most popular horse in training. 12 years of age to be strutting his stuff like this. At his best, he'll win. But I'm just with the horse that's younger than him.
With Battle Over Diane.
Yeah, don't rule out Tornado Flyer as well. He's in and out, but has the ability.
€142,500 for the winner of the Paddy Power Irish Gold Cup. Goes to post at 3:30. Kenboy 13-8. Delta Work 2-1. Presenting Percy 9-2. Chris's Dream 6-1. Bell's Hill 14-1. Le Bagarrois 25. Cabium 33s. Annabelle Fly 50. And Jet 100-1. Why is Bell's Hill such a big price? Why is Presenting Percy such a big price?
Well, Presenting Percy obviously hasn't won his last 3 races. He was disappointing at the Gold Cup. He was okay in his comeback, and he was 5th the last day behind 2 of these. I think they're definitely working back from Cheltenham with this horse, and that's the plan. And he was given almost a ride the last day.
But bear in mind, this time 12 months ago, Presenting Percy could walk on water.
He could. I haven't lost faith in the horse. I think things have been against him. He did mess of a campaign last year because of the ground, and they were a little bit safe with him and not running them. They ended up running them around the Galway fences, turned the other way as a bizarre, unconventional prep for Cheltenham. But he never got into a rhythm in the Gold Cup. And I think I'm almost wary of saying it, but I think he was ridden the last day with a view to not souring the horse, or just to get him back, get him his confidence back, because he was given a quiet enough ride. He's a very good horse. I mean, 4-1, 5-1 each way. He should be in the first three. You know, he's only slightly shorter than Chris's Dream. I mean, I definitely have him above Chris's Dream. So in the end, I'm going with Kenboy. Now, he's short enough in the betting, but he's a seriously good horse in his day. On this ground, he has a turn of foot. He really does have a turn of foot. I think on this ground, he'll probably take a lot of beating.
So how will this race be run?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, La Baga Roy will be prominent. Delta Work will be held up. Chris's Dream will be prominent. Annabelle Fly will be held up. Bell's Hill will probably just sit off them. Cadmium in it as well. I think they'll go a sensible gallop. I don't think they'll go mad, but the ground it'll be decent ground. Like, it'll be probably bordering on good to yielding sort of ground, even despite all their watering, because it's been pretty mild weather in Dublin. It's definitely going to suit Kenboy. To me, he's a horse to beat, but I mean, he does have good horse to beat here. And
is Bell's Hill just not a...
Last year's winner of the race, when memorably there were only 4 runners because of the ground, he was a long way behind Delta Work the last day. Just does have to reverse that form. That was his first run, but he wouldn't be without a chance of getting into the money for Patrick Mullins. I mean, 1 or 2 of these will probably disappoint. He's a tongue strap on for the first time, which is interesting at this stage of his life. Wouldn't be very common for William Mullins to do that, but no, he could run into the money. Okay,
so Bell's Hill and presenting price. What are your picks for the weekend? How are we making money for the Irish Injured Jockeys Fund?
I'll go for a decent price, actually. So I'll go for the first race on the Sunday, and one of the few British raiders, in a Bay, 6-year-old mare for JP McManus, 10-1 at the moment. Actually, I think she's a rock solid each way chance in the 12.55 Sunday.
In a Bay,
yeah.
12.55 Sunday.
Bear in mind, Anya O'Connor, who was a guest on the show not so long ago, rides for JP on Spruce Up, who definitely has a chance. She looks quite progressive.
Right. But so you're telling us you're backing that horse, but there's this other horse in the race that you really like the look of as well.
There's an interesting story there, actually, because Harry Fry is married to Anya's sister.
I mean, hang on a second. We were out for dinner last night with Johnny. It was a belated Christmas party, and he told a story.
You definitely can't tell that story.
I'm not about to, but there was a very complicated sequence of...
If you think of a story being told like in a really roundabout, shoddy, terrible way, it was an awful lot worse than that.
Are you about to do one of those again? So what's this interesting story?
No, I can't tell that story. It was for a private audience.
Oh, I know, the one that you were just about to tell.
There isn't really a story. I'm just saying the 2 horses I mentioned here. Harry Fry is married to Anya O'Connor's sister. Anya O'Connor rides one of them. Harry Fry trains the other.
Okay, great.
Anya's done a lot of riding over there for him because of the connection, but we obviously had her on here. She's a great character. Getting married to Slippers this year, I think.
Right.
Slippers Madden.
I thought they hadn't set a date.
Yeah, maybe they hadn't, but they want to get it out of the way anyway, I'm sure. This year, but anyway, Spruce Up she's only carrying like...
The old romantic, Johnny.
9 stone 12. And Anya is very good value for the £5. So...
You're tipping 2 horses in this race.
But I'm going with Inabai.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same connections as in JP McManus, but I'd give both of them a good chance. Inabai is my nap of the weekend at an each way price.
Okay, each way. New Tote customers can get up to €50 cash back for opening a new account. See the tote.com website for more details. If you're going to Leopardstown, have a great time. If you're not going and you're watching it on the telly, have a great time as well. There was hopefully a bit of information in there on all those races to give you a little guide about what you should be spending your money on. But it's going to be an absolutely phenomenal weekend. We'll have live reports coming across the weekend on all of our social channels here on offtheball.com as well. That's Friday Night Racing in the books for this week. We stream live on all of our social channels every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and then we're back on the radio at 8 o'clock on News Talk every Friday with Friday Night Racing 2. Hope you enjoyed it.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.